Hello, I'm Mr. Luby, and all this. Well, I guess you're getting used to this. Uh, I made an adaptation to be able to go to the store so that people wouldn't be able to tell if I shaved or not. That's the main reason, or maybe to be a little safer these days. Welcome back to third grade science adaptations and making sure you're on the right track to creating your plant or animal. Call a project, but don't tell anybody. People get nervous with that word projects, but you'll be all right. And we're doing it little by little. No hurry. You have until May 20th. Okay, so that's a few weeks away. Let me go on to a PowerPoint here that we're going to work on. And start off from the beginning, just like if it was school, which it is. I will help you explore how structures and functions of plants and animals allow these organisms to survive in a particular place. Read that one more time. I will help you explore how things are made and how they act, and how these organisms survive or adapt in a particular place or environment. Your job, you will decide what your creation needs to adapt in the environment or survive. You have chosen an environment, I hope, because if you have not, you might want to go back and look at last week's science checklist that has the video lesson in it. And that's when we talked a lot about environments. So if you haven't done that yet, it's no problem. You can stop this video and go back and do the previous week and even farther back than that. That is one of the cool things about learning online and distance learning, you might say, or flipped classroom, however you want to call it. You have a little more control of when you decide to study and even go back and review things that you've already studied. So, besides the fact that you will decide what your creation needs to survive in the environment you have chosen, you will also implement your research skills to explore the adaptations needed for either a plant or an animal to survive in their chosen environment. And that's why it's important that you chose an environment. Now, your choices were desert, mountain, forest, or ocean, any of those environments. And now it's time for you to decide whether you're going to create a plant or an animal. So step by step, don't feel like this is something that has to be done tomorrow. You have time to think about this. So it's a step-by-step process and plenty of time. And it's not a really big deal, but it is important that you do it. What have we done so far? Kind of talked about that already. We've looked at what the project will be like. And I was talking with a parent on Dojo and going over what the project looks like and explaining that it's a creation of an animal or plant, and you're going to have to make something up and try to include adaptations, things that would be needed to survive. And the parent responded back with this quote, so I hope it's okay that I use this. She said, "Oh, you mean the animal or plant can be fictional, which means made up, with real life adaptation features or other real life animals of other real life animals or plants?" And I thought, wow, yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what we're doing. Fictional. You're going to make up a plant or animal, but it's going to have some real life adaptation features, or maybe even something that you do make up along with other real life animals or plants. So you could even go a little bit beyond that and make up something that you've never heard of a plant or an animal having as an adaptation. So you've talked about your choices, being a plant or an animal, and the environment where you need to look into that. Last week we talked about the tundra, which is a very cold area that only gets up to about 50 degrees during its summer. And that is just, I think, about 3 months long. And we talked about what plants and animals live in the tundra and how they adapt to the region. So if I was going to create something, a plant or an animal to live in the tundra, I would have to know about the environment and how cold does it get? How long is it warm? Why is that important for survival, whether I'm a plant or an animal? So just a little bit of review on adaptation. This is a video about a camel and all of the adaptations that need to be made for it to survive in a desert, which is hot and dry, and remember, very sandy. So it has a lot of things it talks about here. So go ahead and take a look. It's pretty interesting. Hope you like it.
Adaptation, changes in the body to fit a location. Adaptation, changes in the body to fit a location.
Come on. Fake pads on my feet, better traction than a Jeep, and another on my chest so I can rest on the sizzling sands that ride like a pan. I'm crossing the Sahara in my caravan. I'm the legendary dromedary, 400 pounds on my back. In the desert I carry nothing to drink until the next oasis. Water is precious, so we never waste it.
Adaptation, changes in the body to fit a location. Changes in the body to fit a location.
Not a rain, it's air extra dry, but I never get a grain of sand in my eye. If the wind blows gyros, sand tornadoes, I got better lids kid than J-Lo. Long and thick with a double lash, close them fast, built to last. In the hump on my back, got an extra tank like a Savers Bank, packed with fat. The hump on my back is packed with fat. The hump on my back is packed with fat. The hump on my back is packed with fat. Won't say it again, cause you know all that. Thick lips, eat sticks and bone, thorny scrubs that others leave alone. Sometimes sip on the salty brine, cause the H2O is hard to find. My shaggy fur insulates, my body temps regulate, so I don't sweat and dehydrate. Live another day to procreate.
Adaptation, changes in the body to fit a location. Adaptation, changes in the body to fit a location. Adaptation, changes in the body.
Well, that was a quick ending. What does an environmental biologist do? We'll talk about that along with the fact that what we've already talked about a little bit about research and study. So you'll need to, if you choose a plant or an animal, you need to study what the parts of those usually have and what you might need to do to yours to kind of change them up a little bit. Biology is the study of all living things. And living things are called organisms. There are several types of organisms. You're mainly concerned about plants and animals. Other kinds are bacteria, fungi, and protists. I had to look that up on what is that? That's like a microscopic living thing that only has one cell. So I learned something today. It's always good to do. And then here is what your role as an environmental biologist is. So read along with me, please. Just follow along. The role of the environmental biologist is to research plant and animal adaptations. Now that you have chosen, I hope, chosen and researched your environment, use that information to determine what adaptations your plant or animal will need to survive in that environment. Be sure to consider the creative design of your new organism to create the model, to help create the model of the animal or plant, and write the report. If you're going to make a model of a new animal, be sure to identify 3 structural, that means how it's made, and 3 behavioral, that means how it acts, adaptation. Your organism will need to survive. So those 3, you get to make 6 on those, 3 plus 3. But if you're going to make a model of a plant, you just need to identify 3 structural adaptations. And if you want to do 1 or 2 of behavioral, because I'm on, does a plant behave? Venus flytrap kind of does, but maybe your plant will behave in a certain way. Otherwise, focus on the structural adaptations it will need to survive. Also be able to explain these adaptations and why they are important to the survival of your organism during the presentation. The presentation will be about 3 minutes long. You can do it on video. It might be a Zoom class. We work together, might schedule different events. That's more details that you can see also on the document and then coming up in the following weeks as that gets closer. Some possible websites for you to research are listed below. And there's 3 for plants and 1 for animals. And of course, that's just not all there are. So remember your work each week. It builds on each week you complete the week's project. One more time. Each week you complete the week's project. So it's like last week you did the environment. This week you're doing the biology, the living organism that you are creating. If that's what you're focusing on this week. Next week, that's when you get to work your creativity and actually make the product, something on paper, make a model even. So it's just week by week. Don't feel like you have to do it all at once. We will study something new that adds to the week before, and that's what we've been doing. Like I said, that project will be due May 20th. So here's a reminder of other search engines that you can use. And remember, anytime you're watching this video and you need to write something down, just push pause. All right, let's look at a few adaptations as a review of possible environments that you've already chosen. There are some for an ocean. The plants have to make adaptations. The aquatic plants, I like the very bottom here. It says the aquatic plants can grow only in water or in soil that is permanently saturated with water. They are therefore a common component of wetlands. And I liked one of the adaptations, especially on the crab. It says, this is a crab. His eyes are on stalks. I never thought of that. So kind of like Jar Jar Binks, if you've seen Star Wars. This is a crab. His eyes are on stalks, so he can look all around for danger. He can even see behind himself. Maybe teachers need to have eyes like this. I think a lot of them can already see behind them. Have they ever told you they have eyes in the back of their heads? Do teachers have adaptations? We might. We really might. Okay, let's look at some adaptations of fish, the bladder, the gills, the tails, the fins, things that they need to survive. Moving on to a different environment, a lot of them have small leaves or spines. If we're talking about plants, that helps them conserve water. Thick, waxy skin holds in water, and the roots are near the soil because of the rain doesn't happen very often, and it needs to soak it up as soon as it can. We saw the video about the camel, and it's storing the water inside its humps, the fat that's there. And, oh, a scorpion. I think that is. That looks a little scary. Other adaptations, one you may not have known about, saw up here, it says some animals like the rabbits have large ears to give off heat. I didn't know that. I do know that, though, when we're playing baseball, we say take off your hat. If you're in the dugout, if you're in the shade, take off your hat. That lets the heat get out of your head. So just remember that. That's your sports tip for the day. Okay. Other plants in the forest may depend on how much light they're getting, where they're growing in the forest, why their leaves are shaped a certain way, or maybe not even have leaves. Animals and their behaviors. What are they needing to eat? how do they behave? I've heard raccoons like to make sure everything is clean. They wash their hands. So that's something to consider, the behavior of whatever you're going to create and its diet, and whether it is something that is being hunted or it is the hunter, right? Predator or prey. Mountains, plants might look totally different. How is the pollen? How are the seeds being spread around? Is a hummingbird after one of these? And is another one of these eating? Is it carnivorous? If you're living in the mountains, you would need to have the type of feet that can get you around on rocky places. And I hope that they are not afraid of heights. So what about a polar bear? Take that for example. Hold on just a second here. Let me move this. So look at the have and the are. That kind of covers the functional area of a living organism, the adaptation. They have blubber, webbed feet, streamlined heads, a great sense of smell. That's what they have. That's how they are made. Look over to the right. They are also white. They are very large mammals, brave and smart. And then how do they act? Look in the middle, written on the body. Polar bears can swim very well. They know how to hunt. They dig in the snow. I've heard they even cover their nose, their black nose, so it can't be seen in the snow. They're so strong they can break through ice if they're going fishing, I guess. And they get started real early. When they're only 4 months old, they leave the den. So here's a couple of documents you might have to be able to take notes on yours. For me, I'll be doing one on plant here in just a little bit. The project is going to go from week to week. So this week you are thinking about the animal that you are going to create or plant. So you do have plenty of time, but let's just do it step by step. Last week was environment. This week is you are actually making a decision on a plant or animal and what's it going to be. Start getting some details with it. And so what did you choose, or should I say create? If you haven't done that yet, when this video is over, you need to do that and start taking some notes and describing it. Maybe use one of these graphic organizers to help you out and make it fun. And I'm going to try to make it fun here if I can. I'm going to get my graphic organizer and take some notes. Excuse me here while I switch out my screen and see if I can do that, and also take care of my background. Bluebonnet, official flower of Texas. I'm sure you already knew that though, right? Come on. And here we go. All right, so I have my graphic organizer. I'm doing an environment that's different than the one you have your 4 choices of, going back to the tundra. And I remember that it's very cold most of the year. The summers are short. It only gets up to about 50 degrees. And I'm trying to think of something. So I thought about that this afternoon a little bit. If I made a plant, my name is Mr. Luby, and every once in a while I might hear a nickname that I might like or might not like Luby, Lube Master, Lube Job, Lube. Okay, it kind of reminds me of my high school days. But I was thinking something that had something to do with lube. I spelled my name with 2 B's, but for this, lube, and I'll explain this later. Maybe the name of the plant could be called the lube shoal. The lube shoal, yes, because I want it to my plant to be able to survive in this. I want it to have a shell. So that's where the shell comes from. I changed the spelling. You know why? Because I created it. I get to do it how I want to, okay? So it has a shell of hardened. I don't know if this is going to work, but guess what? I'm making it up so I can make it work. Hardened oil. I don't know if you've ever had, like if anyone's cooking and they have some grease in the pan, maybe bacon grease or something like that. And then when it gets cold, it gets harder. You can't even see through it. I was kind of thinking some kind of oil like that, that when it gets cold, the plant, as protection, the oil on it gets hard and works kind of like a turtle. So maybe I'll call it the lubeshul, or the turtle lube. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to include turtle with it or not. But a hardened shell of oil, okay, that thaws at, I know water thaws at 32 degrees. And I don't know if I want this to thaw earlier than water or after the water. And why do I want it to thaw? Well, I'm thinking if the plant's seeds are starting to need to make other flowers, I'm thinking, boy, it's cold there a lot, but I would like for it to be, it thaws at 25 degrees Fahrenheit. A plant that the oil thaws even before water thaws. That would be kind of interesting. That might help it get a head start because the seasons are very short, and I know I want to have a growing season, and so I think I want it to start thawing at 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so it says describe the structures or physical characteristics that will help the survival of your plant. So I would say, I know some other plants in that area have shallow roots because the ground is frozen. Okay. It doesn't do the roots very good, doesn't serve a purpose for them to go deep if they can't go into the frozen tundra. Okay, so frozen ground. In the desert, they're shallow because of the water. So when it rains, it doesn't stay very long, and they need to have shallow roots. So list any other characteristics that will help it survive. I would say grows very quickly. And flowers. Flowers can be a verb. Quickly, I'm going to put a ditto sign there. And what about this oil? I'm thinking, I don't know, kind of like a skunk. The oil stinks, so it'd keep animals from eating me, something like that, which could take me back to the name. Could I make the name have something to do with a skunk? Something that stinks. Lubeshul. I have to have lube because my name's Luby and I'm naming it, so I'm putting my name in it. Now you don't have to do that, but skunk. That's something I'll play with. Maybe next week if I've come up with something else, or if you come up with something, you can email me or put a comment or come visit in the Zoom chat room. But right now I'm going to call this plant the Lubeshul because it has an oil, which is a lubricant. It helps the seeds travel. It may not be very far, but they travel. If the oil starts running, kind of, and it has shallow roots, it grows very quickly. Now I've got to figure out how I'm going to draw this, and I haven't done that yet. So you might have to make up something of your own, okay? And you can also practice what I've just done with an animal or whatever you choose. You could use a form that's available here to print out, or one on an animal. And you could go back to the slide for polar bear and put in facts about that, or you could just use this graphic organizer to begin work on yours. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and I hope you don't think that sounds too crazy, but I guess it doesn't matter because it's mine, right? All right, let me see what I've got left on my PowerPoint. And here we go. I think I might have just been done. Let me check real quick. And I guess I am, because I must have switched my video. So, well, now that we're in the dark, hello, there we go. And I want to see if I can get this back really quickly. There we are. So I hope you enjoy working on this project. And if you have any questions, remember to go by the Zoom chat rooms. And that link is on your assignment, the student checklist. So you can come by and say hi to us or have any questions about this project. Please do so. See you next time.